Pastor Scott, thank you so much for sending the team here to Brazil in São Vicente to help us painting the church, bringing the sound equipment, the fender. It was such a blessing for us. We want to say thank you so very much with all our hearts. From the bottom of our hearts, we say thank you. You guys are such a blessing. It was amazing to see Everton, Natasha, and the little Gabriela again. And also to get to know Pastor Raj, Pastor Tim, and all the team, all the lovely brothers and sisters who came. We were so blessed to receive them and for all the work they have done here with us. All the body of Christ here in São Vicente was so compelled to work and to paint the church now, and so all the youth also, they got so encouraged to be able to serve the Lord. So we just want to say thank you so very much, and we appreciate your prayers, we appreciate all your love, all the work and the provision you guys send out. And also, we pray that the Lord would allow you guys to continue coming. So next year, I pray that the Lord would bless and send you guys again. And hopefully one day, we pray that also to be able to send a team to you to bless and encourage you in the Lord. Okay? We love you. God bless you. Thousands of kisses and hugs for you. God bless you.
All around me, when mountains stand in the path I see, I look to love that's unfailing. I look to grace that is all I need. Oh, call upon the name Jesus Christ, the only name that saves. For there is no one like our God. There's no one like our God. There's nothing that when waters rise all around me, when mountains stand in the path I see, I look to love that's unfailing. I look to grace that is all I need. Oh, call upon the name Jesus Christ, the only name that saves. For there is no one like our God. There's no one like our God. There's nothing that can stand against you. There's no stronghold you can break, no life that you can save. Our God, you never fail. Your light will shine through the darkness. Your word will calm every crashing wave. My hope it lies in your promise. My faith it stands on the empty grave. Oh, call upon the name Jesus Christ, the only name that saves. For there is no one like our God. There's no one like our God. There's nothing that can stand against you. There's no strong stronghold you can't break, no life that you can't save. Our God, you never fail. No life you can save. Strong through every trial, faithful through the night. Our God will never fail. Our God will never fail. Anchored through the flood, you keep holding on. I know you'll never fail. Jesus, you never. Oh, call upon the name Jesus Christ, the only name that saves. Oh, call upon the name Jesus Christ, the only name that saves. For there is no one like our God. There's no one like our God. There's nothing that can stand against you. There's no stronghold you can't break, no life that you can't save. Our God, you never fail. Strong through every trial, faithful through the night. Our God will never fail. Our God will never fail. Anchored through the flood, you keep Jesus, you never
No esplendor do Rei, vestido em majestade, me regozijarei, me regozijarei. Tua luz em nós brilhou e as trevas dissipou ao som da sua voz, ao som da sua voz. Quão grande é o meu Deus, cantarei. Quão grande é o meu Deus, todos verão. Quão grande é o meu Deus. Pra sempre irás reinar por toda eternidade. Princípio e o fim, princípio e o fim. És Deus, três em um. Pai, Filho, Espírito, leão e o cordeiro, leão e o cordeiro. Quão grande é o meu Deus, cantarei. Quão grande é o meu Deus, Savior knelt to wash our feet. Now at his feet we bow. One who wore our sin and shame, now robed in majesty, the radiance of perfect love now shines for all to see. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise.
He loves you so much, he had to do it twice. That's the way Celso is. Boy, that brought back a lot of memories and some tears, and you saw some of the things that we were able to do and engage in. Right now, what's going to happen, though, folks, is our team is going to come up. They did a skit, a really dramatic skit, because they don't speak Portuguese, but you know what? This is the way you can communicate to anybody in any language. We're going to show you what we did out on the street ministry over there in São Vicente. So you guys are welcome to come on up now.
the privilege of sharing what this story meant. It's a little different sharing it in English than having to wait for a translator, but so the idea was Caitlin was a lost girl, and she just wanted somebody to love her, anybody to love her, and they just mocked and made fun of her, and they wouldn't receive her. And so she obviously went to the world, but before I go on to that, I just want to share the really sweet thing. If you noticed, all that time, Jesus was just waiting, just in the outskirts, waiting for her to get tired of that life and tired of the sinfulness and just come to him. And so he's telling her she's loved and she's forgiven and she's worthy. And then as she tries to walk with him, you notice that the pull of the world pulled her back in. And he waited patiently. She went through drinking, and she went through being unloved and unworthy at the end, just taking her life because she was so unhappy, wanting to take her life. And then Jesus again comes in and captures her. And of course, the sinful ones didn't want Jesus in the picture, ultimately taking him to the cross. And we all know the story, right? So Jesus dies on the cross, and she shares that love. He tells her, now go and share the love of Christ. And then all of the sinfulness they were all saved. So thanks for letting us share.
They did such a good job, didn't they? I just want to start this time right now. We're going to have a few minutes where the team is going to come up and share some different stories with you guys. And I want to just tell you how we came about to doing this trip to Brazil. Basically, it was this. Everton, I think, we just brought you on, right? He'd been here like a month. And I just went into his office and said, hey, what would it be like to do a mission trip to Brazil? And you should have seen his face just light up. And he's like, oh, it would be, and he went through the whole thing, and we talked for about 2 hours and put together a little proposal for Pastor Raj, and he didn't even flinch, I don't think. He was just like, let's do it. Let's get this thing going. And so that's how it all started. And I'm so glad we went. Our heart behind the trip was really simple. It was to come alongside our brothers and sisters in Brazil, just to encourage them, to love on them, to help build them up, to help them in their ministry, to support them, and then to, kind of go home, right? Because we're not going to be able to stay there and continue. So our heart was to edify them and build them up so that they would be encouraged in the things of the Lord and the ministries that they're doing. And it's so interesting what happened, because I think we did that to them, but they did that even more so to us. And we all came back just on fire for Jesus and so excited to do what God has called us to do. I know one of the things I was just going to share, the stories that these guys, first of all, the stories these guys are going to share with you guys tonight, they're just the tip of the iceberg. God did such an amazing work there. And I want to encourage all of you to find one of them and talk to them and just let them tell you what God did. You'll be so encouraged and so blessed. And then the one thing I wanted to share as I opened this up was this, and I just entitled it, Nothing is, Nothing is as planned. And you can see that on your little thing there. Nothing is as planned, because I'll tell you what, I like to plan things ahead. I like a lot of structure. I like things to be in order. And as soon as we got to Brazil, it was like the Lord said, I'm not going to do things your way, Tim. We're going to do it my way. And I am not kidding. Almost everything that I tried to do was changed. Like almost everything. And I think by about day 3, I quit. I just kind of gave up, and I said, okay, Lord, we're here to serve you. I'm not even going to make plans. I'm not going to tell anything to anybody. We're just going to wait and see what happens today. And every day we had the greatest opportunities. We had God just leading us, God directing us, and the Lord speaking to our hearts in so many awesome ways. So it turned out great. You guys, I love you. You guys are such a great team. You did such an awesome job. And I was just so encouraged by all of you over there that went, and want to say thank you to the church for your provision, for your prayers, for your thoughts, for all of your encouragement. It was a blessing. So thank you. Everton? So Everton and Natasha have some neat things to tell you guys too. Here, take a couple mics there. It's on. Yeah, it's on. Go on up there.
Yeah, what a blessing. Definitely, as Pastor T mentioned, when he almost, 10 months ago, or 11 months ago, when we mentioned about the opportunity to go to Brazil, definitely I was smiling. I was like, wow, that's going to be so nice to be able to go to minister to my people. And we have a lot of needs there, spiritual needs, material needs, and that was great. And as Pastor Celso mentioned before, definitely the church was really, really blessed and encouraged by us being there. We had great time there, great days. We had opportunities to share the love of God with people there. But also, we were so blessed. The church there was really blessed, but we also were so blessed by people there. They don't have much thing, like many material resource, but they have like such big love. They can give love to everybody. That's something that I like. Of my people, like they are just like that, and just like Prescott. These people just love. When I got here, like I told Natasha, I was like, when we moved from California to here, I was like, wow, it's so nice, you know. It's nice to be here because people are so loving, and I'm so excited. You know, you can notice that. So definitely, the church there, I'm sure they'll never forget everything that the church here in Prescott, Calvary Prescott, did, like sending them like resources to painting the church. And when I talked to Pastor Celso, we didn't know that. We planned that, and we talked to Pastor Celso, and just like about 2 weeks before we go there, I was talking to Pastor Celso, and we were maybe planning or asked them to help, like, to finish a couple of things. And Pastor Celso said, like, we would love to do that, to give something. But he said, like, we are living our most difficult financial situation, the history of our church. We don't have anything now to help. So whatever you guys want to bless us, you don't have to. But if you want to bless us with something, that'll be up to you. You can bless us with whatever you want. And definitely it was a great blessing. They were overwhelmed by what the church here, Calvary Chapel Prescott, did for São Vicente. And just quickly, I just want to take so long, but one thing that was very impactful to my life, when we were about to go to Rio de Janeiro, we had to take a bus, and because we had like some documents, but didn't have the right numbers of our documents in these documents, unfortunately, we could not travel. And as Pastor Tim mentioned, like, we had the plans, like, to leave that evening, but we could not. So it was very frustrating for us, especially for me. I was trying to do everything that I could just to make sure that we were doing everything correctly. But I was talking to the guy on the phone. I think he was one of the owners, because the way that he speaks, yeah, he sounded like that for me. And you know, and he was explaining me what could happen if we travel with the right documents and all the stuff, and I was just listening to him. And after he finished, and I start to say his name was José Antonio. I said, Mr. José Antonio, I want to just tell you something. I know that unfortunately we're not going to be able to travel tonight, but we believe that our God has a purpose for everything. If He doesn't want us to travel in the evening, we don't know. Of course, we're not saying that something's going to happen, but we don't know. Our God knows everything, so that's fine. You know, we are here like sad, frustrated that we cannot go, but that's fine. Don't worry. We are going tomorrow. And when I stopped to say, I could not hear anything. The other side said, "Oh, he just left." When I started to mention about God, he just left and after a couple seconds, he said like, "Hey, Everton, in my whole life, I never heard someone saying that for me." And that was very impacted to me because he never heard like someone mention about God's plan for us. And he could have the opportunities, and we were just sharing. It's like maybe that's what the Lord wants to do, just for that guy, just for him to hear like from God's plan. And maybe I don't know what's going to happen in his life, but maybe he's going to be thinking, God's plan. What is God's plan for someone? So that's what happens. And right, Gabi? Yes. So just quickly, something that Natasha was mentioned to me during the week, and I asked her, say like, could you share that with the church? And something that was very interesting, that I'm from Brazil, I'm from the church, and I never noticed that, but definitely that's what it is, how people see things about church. And could you share this?
Yeah, I'd love to. She's a handful. I was just really struck that there were a couple times where I think our team would mention to the gallery there that, "Oh, your building is so nice." And there were, I think, a couple of times that was said, and I remember the response each time was, "The people here are great. They're loving. They're wonderful." And I just remember thinking, wow, what a perspective, what a correct perspective, where the church is, you, right, the people, not the building or any of those external things. So for me, I think coming from North America, sometimes it was just like, wow, you're right. The church is strictly, or the people. So that was a blessing to me. Thank you.
Amen. That's it.
Right.
Amen.
All right. So now we have Richard and Margaret and David, and they're going to share about some relationships that we built over there in Brazil.
Has anyone ever,
Should be.
okay. Has anyone ever met anyone and for the first time and you felt like family? Show of hands. That's what it was like when we first showed up at the first building. The church came out and greeted us as if we were family. You could feel the Holy Spirit with the people, the church. We had a slight barrier with the language. They had a number of people who spoke American. And then, of course, we gestured with our hands a little bit to try to get points across. And we were able to communicate rather well. And you could tell that a number of the church family there, they started hanging out with different groups of us, and we connected with them, and they connected with us. You could really feel the Holy Spirit working. And I don't know if anybody else knows about love languages, but I feel loved when I'm touched. And I tell you something, with the Brazilian people down there, they just love to give you hugs. And I felt so loved, I could feel the Holy Spirit. And, well, I'm passing on the mic.
That's more than I thought he'd say. No, I appreciate that. And yes, we definitely felt the love as soon as we walked into the building. And there was what people refer to as divine appointment that happened. don't want to cry. Hopefully I won't. I never thought that there would be a divine appointment where I would have an opportunity, Richard and I would have an opportunity to encourage someone who doesn't speak English. And I sat down at the table when we were having a meal. The church came in, we had a meal one night. I sat down at the table away from the rest of our family from here.
Margaret, put it closer to you.
Put it closer, okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, I sat down at the table, and I was just sitting there pretty much alone for a while until this lady sat down, and she didn't speak any English. And then I think it was Marcelo sat down next to me, and then we communicated through him, and she asked me what my testimony was, and I shared that with her. And then Richard and I were both having a conversation with her about how we met. And we encouraged her because she just recently had gone through a divorce. And the way Richard and I had met, we were praying for the person in the other. So I was praying for a godly man like Richard. Richard was praying for a woman like me. And we shared that story with her, and we told her, you know, she needs to pray and ask specifically for the kind of man that she would like to have come into her life. And I didn't think that that was a big deal, but that encouraged her so much that she even mentioned that during the women's prayer meeting that we had with Missy. And that just really touched my heart so much that we would be able to encourage her. And the people there, they really encouraged us quite a bit. And so I really do want to go back. So if we do go back, I want to be part of that team again.
Thank you, Margaret. Wow, following Richard and Margaret, that's a hard task. They pretty much covered a lot of stuff. So like a good friend of mine says, ditto. No, I'm just kidding. I'll keep it short, though. I just want to say that the people of Brazil, particularly the churches that we visited, and all were so loving, so godly, so warm, and they just made you feel welcome. And, you know, Pastor Tim said that, you know, there was a lot of changes happening and stuff like that. But one of the things that I noticed the very first day when we got to the church, everybody knew what to do. For a lot of non-professional painters, we just went to work, shoulder to shoulder, rubbing elbows, getting it done, and we just accomplished a lot. That was very impressive. And the beautiful children there were just wonderful. The smiles on their faces, the joyful attitudes that they have. There was one particular little girl named was Alice, and she was a very animate little girl. And she was a blessing to everybody on our team because she hugged us all and kissed us all and really blessed us. But, you know, we went to San Vicente to bless the people there, but they blessed us tenfold, really, in every conceivable way. And it was just a total blessing for all of us. And again, if we go back, I'm on board.
Hi, my name's Dave, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the street evangelism that we did when we were in Brazil. So we took one evening, we went to a very busy intersection in town, and the plan was to do the skit that you all saw, and then Pastor Tim and Pastor Hodge were going to give their testimony. But before that, we were all tasked to invite the people who were around the plaza to come, see the skit. So Evertone gave us a crash course in Portuguese, you know, so hola was hello, and then our key phrase was teatro en 30 minutos na plaza. So which is theater, I think I got that right, it's theater in 30 minutes on the plaza. So we set off in groups of 2 and 3, and I went with Elizabeth, my wife. We went across the street where there was a bus stop. And she immediately started engaging people with her newfound second language. And I kind of stood off at the side. And, you know, I remember Pastor Tim telling us before we left that there's going to probably be some times where you're going to be stretched, you know, or challenged during the mission trip. So if someone had asked for volunteers to, you know, invite people in a foreign country with a language you don't know to a church function, I wasn't going to be one to raise my hand. But we, you know, with encouragement from my wife, you know, I started to jump in. Of course, I think it was 20 minutos by the time I got started, so it was about 20 minutes. But one thing I noticed when we did talk to the folks, you know, they were like most pedestrians, their head was down and no eye contact. But when we engaged with them, they immediately, you know, lit up. We got a lot of smiles, a lot of obrigados, you know, thank yous, and a lot of thumbs up. So that was a memorable time for me. And if I can take a minute just to share some fruit that came from that, is our community fest that we had this past week. That Halloween night, I was going to meet Elizabeth on Senator Highway, and we were going to look at the, you know, the homes that were decorated and see the costumes the kids had on, and then, you know, head over to the church for Community Fest. Well, Elizabeth had a different plan in mind that I didn't know about. She went to the church and got a stack of the Community Fest flyers. So when I met up with her on Senator Highway, she even had some candy taped to some of them. She said, we're going to invite people to Community Fest, you know, the families here on Senator Highway. And I was a little taken aback, and but, you know, with encouragement from her, and she said, you know, if we can do this in Brazil speaking Portuguese, we can certainly do it here speaking English. So we passed out a bunch of flyers. I think she passed out more than what I did, but again, it was a real good experience for me. The people said thank you. They didn't know that there was a community fest here at the church. And don't know how many people came, but we do know there's a lot of people that have a brochure from Calvary Chapel in their car now. So that was a real blessing for me.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the prodder. Oi! Oi! Let's see. That's hello. I think they figured that out. So I'm just saying. So we're talking about painting and like my T-shirt. You see, you can see proof that I actually did paint because yeah, you know, I got into it, and I just love painting. I really do. I love painting more than just about anything. So I was in my element, and it was awesome, and it was a lot of fun. And we got Susan out there, and she was working pretty darn hard, and we were having a good time and laughing a lot. Susan likes to laugh.
You need to get to know this girl.
So we had a really good time, and we had some people that Brazilians that were there, and Jaleesa, I think, and her husband, and he was way up on the scaffolding with no support and nothing tied. And I'm the safety monitor, the self-appointed safety monitor, and there were people that were not doing what I was telling them to do, you know. So, but amazingly, with the Lord's help, nobody got, you know, seriously injured, and that was good. And so we just had a great time and had a wonderful time hanging out with them and working with them, and also speaking of the bus breaking down. So that night some of us got to stay at homes that night, and Bruna was one of them and her family, and it was just awesome to hang out with them. And I don't know if I'm taking anybody else's story, but anyway, so the next morning she made breakfast for us, and so we just loved it. And they served Americana coffee, actually cups that big, not the little ones like that, you know. And I just thought, so we of course had it with leche milk, and we went through the milk right away. And then the dad kind of disappeared, and then all of a sudden he came back with a bag of milk, with milk in it. And it's like, oh, he went to the store and bought more milk for us. I was just like, no, sweet. Anyway, ciao, ciao.
You really do need to get to know her. She had me laughing so hard. Many times I was crying because I was laughing so hard. Oh, and all of you need to know that Everton's name is Everton. Right? But one of the people, I mean, everyone said it, but the people there were really genuinely sweet, kind, good, loving people. I think all of us came back really changed. Our hearts were changed because they were just so sweet. Just an example. Sunday evening, we had worship service at their church. There was a teaching, of course, it was in Portuguese, so we didn't understand a lot of that, but the worship was just really, really sweet. And then after the worship they asked for anyone to come forward for prayer. And, there were some of the pastors or probably elders of the church that went up for people that would come up for prayer. And I noticed a young man, probably maybe 20, 22 maybe, went up and he just started crying and bawling. And then the pastor with him praying was crying with him. And I thought, how sweet is this? Because, I mean, they all knew we're Americans here, we're at the church, we're sitting, we can see this, but that's how much they loved each other, and that's how much they allowed themselves to be vulnerable with each other. And that just has changed my heart, because as Americans, we don't really allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to share the hurts and the times that are going in our lives that are really hurtful. And we hold back, but we shouldn't, because we do all love each other, and we should show that love the way they did. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Everett's my partner. Hi. So I have to go first, he said, because I'm a girl. So I concur with everything they have said, and those two women are quite the gigglers, by the way, which was fun. Also what Susan said about how they love each other, and how they loved us. Just with open arms, they loved us, and that ministered to me a lot too, and how we interact with each other as well. For me, what I think they had a picture of, that's it. They had that's what I did, and I didn't know I was going to be leading that until I think it might have been that day when Raj or Tim said that I was going to teach a Bible study that night. And I wasn't prepared for that, and I didn't have anything. And what was so amazing is that on the plane ride over, I was doing my devotions, and the Lord had given me Jeremiah 17, and that is where it's talking about blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, and he who trusts in the Lord is like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear and does not wither. And the Lord, essentially, that verse, if I could share anything with everybody on that trip, it was that. And it was just, for me, the Lord gave me my Bible study for the girls. And so I had a translator, and I just trusted her that she translated what I said. Took us a while to figure it out. And I kept looking at my girls, and they would nod and smile at me, and I guess it was making some sense. And I didn't know, because I didn't know the girls yet, hadn't really gotten to know them until the next day. And I didn't know about any of the fruit from it. I talked about fruit. Your roots go down deep, and there's fruit that you see, and we talked about what the fruit was. And then I asked them if how they encourage each other, and do they see fruit in each other. And then remember how they started talking to back and forth, and they began sharing with me, with us actually, about how they love each other, right? How they build one another up. And it brought me to tears. It was just so sweet. So I don't know, that's my story. Sticking to it.
Have you ever had one of those weeks where you were so busy and someone asked you, what did you do this week? And you go, nothing? I mean, we were working sometimes 10, 12 hours, maybe more a day, and we would get back to the hotel and collapse. But anyway, when they asked me to speak, I thought, what can I say? You know, I don't remember anything. So, you know, I have one of those Teflon memories, you know, where nothing sticks. But anyway, I wrote some notes down to help me along. So,
Scoot forward. A little light.
but they might see a reflection. Okay. Anyway, the highlight of my trip was after the skit on the street, this guy interviewed me about my relationship with Christ. Excuse me. He wanted to know what Christ meant to me. And I told him it was all about relationship. And he said, what does that mean? I say, well, take for instance, if you're at home and somebody comes to your door and knocks or rings the doorbell, and they have all their luggage and worldly goods with them, and say they are ready to move in with you, what are you gonna say? Yeah, who are you? When do we talk? When did we walk? Did we share? When do we do anything? I said, if you're not a member of God's family, he's not going to know you. And it's all about getting to know him, to walk with him, to talk with him through prayer, and so on. And while I was speaking, this guy was interpreting for what I was saying, so I hope he got it right, like you said. But anyway, I was one of the people that walked through the community for VBS to get kids to come out, and I had to put on a cowboy costume with spurs and the hat and the long coat. And Tim brought all this stuff with him. I didn't know he had it. He said, oh, this will fit you just great. And the next thing I know, I'm walking through the community, and one lady had a tambourine, and the two Davids had balloons wrapped around their head, and you know, some were clowns, and we just got out there, made some noise, and got the kids' attention. And they had a great VBS. Also, I have to tell them about the Devo groups. Every morning, Pastor Tim or Pastor Raj would lead us in devotion, the Devo group. Well, I know Pastor Raj gets up at 5 anyway to do his. I get up at 5 to do mine, so it wasn't nothing, but there's one picture where I guess I caught somebody yarning. But anyway, we had great fellowship. Each person would give their testimonies about how they were affected by the day's work or Christ in their life, and so forth and so on. And Pastor Raj gave a great lesson to the men one night about pornography. And if you have ever been to Brazil, you'll understand why. Because they have 5,000 miles of beach. 500? Five? The whole country is, one side of it is a beach. But they have no body shame there, so people wear what they want to wear. And it was a good lesson, Pastor Raj, and I think the men, you could hear a pin drop. And last, when I was there, you know, I really felt this oppression, you know, but when I landed in the U.S., I felt it lifted. So I don't know whether we went into a dark place and we were light, or whether the dark place oppressed me or what. But anyway, it was worth every moment there, sharing and caring and just being a part of what the Lord has said before us. Thank you.
Yeah, that too. So I was just reminded of one more thing, and I thought I'd share it with you. And we had there for me, and I don't know how it was for everybody else, but I think they felt the same. The language barrier was really strong. It's just, you can't get Portuguese right. You can try, but you can't. And even every time I said oi, which is hi, they'd laugh. So I thought I got that wrong too. But the second day, we figured out that we had Google Translate on our phones, and we were able to really communicate with each other. And we could just speak it into the phone, and it would speak it, you know, in Portuguese, and it was, we really connected. And there was one, this is what I wanted to tell you. There was one moment where it was after church Sunday night, and we had all cried and said goodbye. I think we had 3 nights of goodbyes. And I was speaking with 2 women and a translator. And the Lord was just saying, this is your one chance. And so I just started sharing about the Lord, how much he loves her. And he was giving me things to say to her. And the young girl was translating. And her eyes were welling up. And I think 15 minutes we were talking. And then finally I just grabbed her by the shoulder and I said, this is all for you, all for you. And I just knew that the Lord wanted her to know that it was for her. And so that, I don't know, and didn't see her again. So I don't know what'll happen with that, but you can pray for her. Yeah, she's real sweet. Okay. Thank you.
Hi. I get to talk about the slums, the church that we got to go to. I thought I was going first. Oh. Anyway, sorry. So it was really special because I don't know if you parents know that the kids participated here, that the church kids participated in making bracelets for us to take. That's right, Maddie. So the upstairs kids made salvation bracelets, which goes through the colors of beads, and those we gave out at VBS. But there was some, what are they called? Survival bracelets that the junior and senior high made. And so those all got stuffed in a bag on its own in my suitcase in the bottom. And there was one bracelet left that Jeremiah was frantically making the day I was packing and getting ready to leave. I think it was that night before. And so I had already buried the whole bag of bracelets, and so I just threw it in my suitcase. And that day we were going to go to the slums. I was getting ready, and I saw that bracelet in my suitcase all by itself, and so I picked it up, and I was going to wear it, and I thought, no, I'm not going to wear it, and I was going to wear it, no, I'm not going to wear it. So then I ended up wearing it, and we went to the slums, and the church was so fun, and we got to feed the kids and play with the kids and do worship with the kids. And there was one little boy, he's going to be a worship leader one day, Everton. He needs to call you. But he just was so fun. So we had a lot of fun, and it was also Kids Day, so the kids got to have presents. And seniors here made a bag, and they filled them full of things for the kids. And so the kids weren't allowed to open their presents or the bags until they left because they would complain about what they got. And they were so funny because they would do what my kids do at Christmas, is they would like touch the package and go, oh, I know what it is. And they would go, no, I don't want it. And they didn't even open it, but they don't, I don't want it. And they'd go, no, 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 that one's yours. So there was one little boy, and he had his satchel that the seniors made full of stuff, and he did look in it. We were waiting for time for everybody else to shuffle out. And he looks in it, and I asked him, I said, did you get a bracelet? And he looks in his bag, and he's looking, and he's like, no, I didn't get a bracelet. So I'm like, well, let me see your bag, because there's got to be a bracelet in there. And so I'm digging through his bag, and sure enough, he didn't get a bracelet. And so I knew that was the reason why I was supposed to wear that bracelet. And it just blessed my heart, because, you know, God knows all the finest details, and just really, really sweet. So.
Well, when we had the Kids Day, we called it VBS, but really they have a Kids Day. I don't know why we don't have that here. You know,
it's called Christmas.
My parents always said every day is Kids Day, so I don't know what's up with that. But so it was Kids Day, and so the whole weekend they had no school. So we got to interact with them for like 3 days straight. And then on the main event day, we had this huge thing, and we set up balloons all over. If you saw in the pictures in the archway, I don't know if you guys seen the archway. It was really cool. And then we did like VBS style. You know, we do worship songs, and we do a teaching, and we did a skit. The worship songs were so much fun. We're all like walking like.
You guys think I'm a hard worship leader for VBS?
It was so great, and like Pastor Tim was dancing. Like it was just a blast. And the kids were getting blessed, and I bet everybody on the team was blessed that day. Just seeing the heart of these kids, they were so happy, and it was just really, really cool to see. And then that night that they were talking about the prayer night that they had. I don't remember what it was, where Susan was talking about it. The night of prayer they had when they did the worship and everybody went up to go pray. Well, me and Caitlin and Cody, we went up to kids ministry. So we were with them the whole time, and let me tell you, it was a blessing. Now, if you know me, I do kids ministry upstairs. I did it for a long time, and it's like very similar. So it was really cool getting to interact with them, but it was all in Portuguese. So I'm like, so it was a little rough, but it was a blast because, like my mom was saying, we used our phones. We had the coolest conversations on our phones, even with the kids. I mean, they're junior hires, you know, they have cell phones. So we were just talking to them, and we had great conversations over our phones. It may sound like it's a little weird, but it was a blast. And it was just the coolest time, and we, like, made up this game, like, had soccer and football and basketball all built into one game, and like hockey, and it was the best time ever. And we were just making the rules up as we were playing. It was just such a blessing. That's the end. It was a huge blessing getting to interact and be with these kids who they just love everybody. Like Everton was saying, I mean, their country is just full of love, and it was so cool. Even the kids, and it was a great time.
Hello, can you hear me? So I get the awesome opportunity to talk about the slums that we went into, and it's funny because when I was young, my dad, he traveled and went to a lot of missions trips, and I just remember him coming home from Africa and seeing pictures of slums, and it's really funny to think of like a 8-year-old girl that wants to go to slums, but that was me. I wanted to go there because I wanted to help those people, you know, being so young. But when I finally got there and saw it, it was just so surreal and so heartbreaking. And I mean, as anyone would tell you that was there, it's just so heartbreaking. And you can see it in the pictures, but I just want to tell you about just the hope that you can have and that they have in these slums. And even though it's just this heartbreaking scene, this family in the slums, they love Jesus, and they write scriptures on their tin walls about Jesus, and they love Jesus. And I just want to tell you real quick about this family that we met from Calvary South Vicente, and his name is Voltaire, and his daughter is Bruna, and me and Bruna became good friends, and we still talk. And she messaged me yesterday with an update about the slums are, it's called Mexico 70. That's what the name is. And so she messaged me, and I got a little update. And but I just want to tell you that her dad Voltaire has this huge heart for the Mexico 70 slums, the little church they have in there, and this family that just has nothing. These two little girls, 4 and 7 years old, just filled with a life of just heartbreak, and they don't know, what we know. And so they just felt for these girls, and they decided that they were going to go and build them a house, because these people didn't even have a toilet to go to the bathroom. They were going out in the bay, and their hearts break for them. And so he is able to go in there and to build them a house. I mean, when I think of a house, I obviously think of what we live in as a house, but I mean, this is just bricks and a stable wall, and that's what they need. And it's so crazy. But this family is just, we're so thankful that they have this big heart, and they're working in the slums, and they're doing all this stuff because God's moving and He's working. And I just took comfort in that, knowing that there's this family that's really gonna start helping in there. And just, I'm just so thankful still. Think about it often. Oh, but I wanted to tell you from what Bruna sent me is, when we were there was no roof on the house that they were trying to build. I can't really see, but with the money that the church provided, they were able to finish building up the base of the house and put the roof on. So just recently they were able to do that, and now this family can have a shelter. So really thankful, and thank you for all your prayers. She says, Bruna says, thank you guys so much for all your prayers. And yeah.
Yeah, and I just agree with Caitlin, and it was just a sweet time being able to go into the grandma and the two little girls and the dad's home. The mom no longer part of the picture. When everybody was outside, I decided to go back in, and the grandma saw me, and they were kind of in their little makeshift kitchen, and she's like, come in, and wanted me to sit down with her and the girls. And here they are with nothing, and they're offering me, the little girls offering me the candy that they just got when we were at the Sunday school with them, and the pictures that we saw. And I'm taking it and just thinking just how sweet that is. And they just were like grabbing on to me and just wanting to love on me. And then everybody came in, and we were going to pray for the family. And first the grandma kind of went to the side, and I didn't know quite what's going on, and maybe everybody coming in, she didn't know what to do, or, because she wanted to just be hospitable to us. And she grabs onto me, and she's holding me, and Pastor Tim starts praying for the family and for the building and everything they were going to be doing. And she's just weeping and holding on to me, and I'm weeping because I'm just thinking that the Lord's going to do so much here. I know it. And then when he started praying for the little girls, she just grabbed me so tight. And I'm a grandma too. And I was just thinking about how much she loves those little girls. And my heart was just breaking for her, and just calling out to the Lord for her. And I'm just going to ask all you guys to be praying for that grandma and for those little girls. We don't even understand the life that they have. And I'm just so thankful to hear that the church is providing for them, and they're coming to church. And I don't know where the grandma's at, but as far as the Lord, but I just know the Lord had put her on my heart to keep praying for her. So thanks, you guys.
And I think that their grandmother had pneumonia, was sick, so keep praying for her as well. 'Cause that's all those little girls have.
Thank you.
So that was the team right there. You can see how special brothers and sisters are, and like somebody said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I had the privilege to minister alongside of them, and it was really awesome. You know, I have a couple of things. I'll just kind of go through this, but somebody reminded me that we're on Brazil time. So, you know what? When I'm done, I'm done. They are one of those countries where you tell them 8 o'clock, starts around 9:30. That's how it is over there. But you know what? In Rio de Janeiro, it's a humongous city, and there is this one Calvary Chapel there. It's millions of people, and there's one church there. And Alex is the name of that pastor. And he had told a story that went like this: I have seen what's going on in this country. I have seen the corruption. I have seen murders happen in some of these slums, because a lot of these slums are controlled by, you know, drug lords and people who basically aren't very nice. So Alex said he wanted to know how to reach these neighborhoods. And he said, Raj, there was actually a time where what I wanted to do was, I knew one of those guys, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to kill the guy and be rid of him forever, and then look what good could have come from all of that. And then he goes, you know, but the Lord reminded me a pastor on death row probably wouldn't be very effective, so I prayed and thought about something else. I thought, dude, that's the way to do it, because I wanted to kill people every, you know, once in a while, but I gotta hold back and say, Lord, please no. So what they did was the outreach to the homeless that you saw. You saw that picture of, right there, the picture of people there. We had gone into this city sort of court. It was sort of in the center, and it was a Baptist church that Alex has now connected with. And this particular church goes once a week, sets up these tables, and just all these homeless people come and they take it. And we had the opportunity as God's representatives, as God's people, to come alongside of them and serve them. And you can see the lines, you can see our team there. We had prepared the food, we had carried it over from about a block and a half away, a couple blocks away. And they gave me and they gave Pastor Tim the opportunity to speak to all these homeless men that were in this line that went down this city court. And Frank, I wasn't actually ready for that. I wasn't ready to do that, and I'm no street evangelist. I'm the guy, like, look, right now I have a device up here. I have little notes and I write things, and by the time I come to you on Sundays or something, you know, I know a lot of them and I'm talking, but just on the spot. And so we go, Pastor Tim goes, and suddenly, I'm telling you what, folks, we know the story of Peter and John speaking before the Sanhedrin, and they didn't know what to say, and suddenly it says the Holy Spirit gave them the words, and bam, they are sharing it, they are telling them who Jesus is. It just started happening. We were able to just start speaking and talking to them about who Jesus was. Listen, your hope, this food is going to be good for now, but Jesus will give you a permanent sort of satisfaction. And these words were coming out, and these men, mostly it was men, there were some women and there were some children too, they were listening very intently. They were very, very interested. They saw the love of a team serving food, and they heard the words, basically the Lord speaking to them. And so they're kind of captivated, very respectful. They were very respectful people. And they would kind of nod, and they would, and you know, they would listen, and Alex, or was somebody who was translating for me. And by the way, that's something to speak and then go like this. Wait for the guy. And then you speak again, and then you wait for the guy. And like Missy said, you hope the guy said it right. But he said it right. I'm telling you guys, the Lord was touching these guys' hearts. And finally, afterward, I probably talked for 6 minutes, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And then we prayed for them. And they very respectfully bowed their heads. And then we invited people to come who wanted to seek the Lord, who wanted to receive Jesus. One man came forward with me, one man came with Pastor Tim, and I know we prayed for them to receive the Lord. And many of the men in there, the way they were listening, you know that the Lord did something in them. What's going on right now? We're praying and saying, dear God, may the fruits be evident in their lives. So that was that ministry there in Rio. And I was telling you there was one Calvary there in a city of the millions. So we need to pray for God's Spirit to move and to do a work there because they are hungry for the Word. The second thing that I wanted to tell you about was the pastors' conference. And Everton, he came with me. And, he was up on the stage with me. There it is right there. That's the picture. And here I am now giving a message. So this was leadership. These were pastors and leaders from churches who came from the region and gathered together to hear a message. And so, again, the Lord put it on my heart to share. But this time it was about Jesus and the woman at the well, and giving them a little insight. And here was the idea behind it. The idea is this: hey, Brazilian Christian pastors, there are few of you. There are few of you who actually teach through the scriptures from stem to stern. They're very Catholic there. I think about 2/3 Catholic there. Mormons have a very big presence in Brazil. But as far as just Bible-centered, Bible-teaching churches, I was looking at a crowd. And so I wanted to encourage them that there are people who need them. Jesus, very intentionally, what did he do? He went to the woman at the well. Jews weren't supposed to go there to Samaria. Jews were supposed to go around. And in Brazil, there are people that you might say you're supposed to go around. There are people there who perhaps live in the slums. There are people there who, they're not as cool. They don't have the cool factor. They're not, as high up on the totem pole, and they sort of get skirted. And telling these men and telling these women, listen, Jesus didn't skirt. He went straight to. And he went to this woman there at the well, and she's like, who are you? What? You a Jew asking me for a cup of water? And the idea was, listen, you've got the gospel. You've got the Word of God. And there are people who are so hungry, they're going to look at you basically and say, what? You looking at me? You're paying attention to me? And they are going to respond to you just like the woman at the well did to Jesus. And Jesus was able then to share the truth, right? Because one of the things about this woman at the well was she had a skewed version of the truth. She said, my people at Gorizim, right? Mount Gorizim, we worship at this mountain, and she's talking all about it. And Jesus said, no, you've got it wrong. Here's actually what the truth is that's you. You've got the truth. And they're going to go, what? That's the truth? And they're going to receive it. And it was just so encouraging. They were so encouraged to be reminded of how effective the gospel is. Telling them about how effective the gospel is. It's effective. I want to encourage you as well, how effective the gospel is. You just take it straight. Beloved of America, you just take the gospel straight to them. No need to skirt. No need to worry about it. No need for intimidation. You take it straight, and something will happen to the hearer. So this was the idea behind the pastors' conference. And again, I'm just trusting that Everton knew how to translate, because that was it. And they loved it. It was so cool. So finally then, I've got this number 3 was, that was a picture from, the pulpit, being able to take a shot of the people, was the mission of Calvary, or the missions ministry of Calvary Prescott. Now, you guys know it's not a coincidence that God brought to us an awesome worship leader and a man who just happens to be from Brazil. And then you've got a Pastor Tim who's got such a heart, such a draw to missions. The guy is just all about, let's take the gospel, let's take the love of Christ to other people. And so when the Lord brought those two guys together, bam, look out, Calvary Prescott, we were on it. And so when they say they came up with a plan and, hey, Raj, what do you think? It's like, man, this is a no-brainer. This is a God thing. Let's do it God's way. And, well, you hear the fruit. There's just nothing but fruit, you guys. And here's where we go then as a church, that the missions, the ministry of the mission. First of all, you ever heard the term being on mission? You ever heard that term before? Kind of a Christianese term, we're always on mission. Let me give you just a little bit of what that means to say that we are on mission, okay? You have your place in life. And what you're supposed to do in your place in life is to do what? It's to share the gospel. And what else? And we've been talking about this in Ephesians. It's to be like Jesus to all of the people. Okay? That's kind of called being on mission. On mission, sort of in the Latin, sort of loosely says being sent, or the sent one. And so every time you go wherever you are, you have been sent by God there. Is your mom a believer? If she's not and you live with your mom, guess what? You are on mission to share the gospel with her. You are on mission to be able to pray for her, okay? So that would be what you call personally being on mission. Then there's the next part, which is just outside the doors, where in your community, at your work, Safeway, whatever, wherever it is. That would be called being on mission, but that's called personal, that's called local. That's kind of phase 2 of the missionary purpose of the Christian. And then finally, number 3 would be even beyond those borders. You count, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. That's the Great Commission that Jesus sends us on. That's in essence called global. So you have sort of a 3-tiered system of being on mission. You have a personal, you have a local, and you have a global. I think we do a pretty good job of being on mission when it comes to personal. We have a very strong church in the gospel. I think local, we definitely want to do more. You know that we want to connect with our church. Just so you know, that's the purpose. It's because we have been called to be on mission. And so the call is, hey guys, let's get out there and do it locally. And then there's this, which is the global, going to your Samaria, going to your uttermost parts of the earth. It's very important for Christians to take part in. So it's no coincidence that the Lord has equipped Calvary Chapel of Prescott to take sort of tier number 3, to sort of take the 3rd level. And because of the fruits that God created through this team, because of, you've heard the stories still, Caitlin is still communicating with them, and I know some others are communicating. It means that our mission globally is something that the Lord has blessed. And we as Christians, we as leadership of the church say, well, did that effort produce fruit? Because if it did, there's something more to it then. This is the way, this I think is a very scriptural way of looking at it. There was great fruit. So yeah, we're keeping it going. To have a ministry now dedicated to missions is what has developed here at this church. Everton and Tim, I'm going to go back to the American way like by tomorrow. But Tim particularly and him, God has brought them together for a ministry like this. Here's where we as the church are, okay? So just like you did for us who went to Brazil, you are prayer warriors. Please ask wisdom to be given to the leadership, to those who are serving in there, so that we would know what's next. Like Celso said, is next year the next trip to Brazil? Maybe, but we want the Lord to definitely give us direction in that. Is perhaps praying to try to get one of their teams to come here part of that? Maybe, but that's something that we want to pray about. We want to be able to pray about this. What about more localized missions? We used to go to, was it Cananea? We used to go to Cananea, didn't we? Yeah, with Pastor Al, we used to go to Cananea there. What about Cananea? Some had gone to local Indian reservations. What about stuff like that? But see what's happened? I'm a little fired up. That's what God has done. He's created a little fire in our bones, and we're ready to act on it. So that would be the next thing. So you pray, and then you consider this. Where are you at? How is the Lord going to draw you into this? Is this going to be something where He's going to call you to be on mission beyond personal? Is it going to be something beyond local? That's what you got to pray about. Because the Lord has given us the great commandment. Go into Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, uttermost parts of the earth. One last thing Tim reminded me of, and that was this. When people go to an international mission trip, international, meaning beyond our borders, he said, there's a fire when they come back that is not equal to what might happen locally or personally. He's like, man, it's a raging fire. It's an inferno. And when you have that sort of a thing under your belt, you are ready to take everything on. Like you heard David and Elizabeth going on Senator Highway and passing out brochures. this is what happens. So I want you, please then, so you're going to pray about it. You see how you might get involved in it. And would you also then pray this, Lord, keep the fire raging in our church. We don't want this one to go down. We want this one to keep it up. We want God to keep it burning very brightly, because Jesus is coming back. And he wants us to share the gospel, because we are his messengers on mission. Amen? Okay, let's close this with prayer, and then we'll go from here. Lord,